Welcome back to another episode of the Day After Podcast. We're here with Ryan Neo Wayne's tell all for the Tribe of Nerds Heroes versus Villains.
What is up, guys? You guys know me as Ryan Wayne, but in the org community, I'm still known as Ryan Wayne. But my nickname is Neo or Neo Wayne, because in the first ever mini I did, Michael, who turned up to be in Heroes vs. Villains, jokingly called me Neo because I kept dodging elimination, well, only for so long, and I liked the sound of Neo Wayne, so I just kind of kept with it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. First off, I want to say, like, how is the casting process for you of getting on to this kind of season? Because there's so many people who have been in the Vanquish community for so long, and you're a newcomer. Like, you just had your season just a little bit ago, and then bam, suddenly you're being reached out here to be a villain of all people. Where I would definitely assumed you would have been on the hero tribe.
Well, there's a few things. So, one day Jake kind of reached out to me. So, Jake is the host of it. He has his own YouTube channel, Tribe of Nerds. Check it out. They do a lot of Survivor stuff on there. They also do some nerd stuff, like they do movie reviews, reviews of Survivor, but like past seasons. And they do have a back catalog of a lot of different. Well, they've had live reality games, and they've done like an org. So I kind of talked to him a little bit through, during the fans vs favorites. It was kind of like the rap party,
Mhm.
or like basically us talking through orgs. And like I'm someone where, especially because all of them are on East Coast, I'm on West. I was able to stay up later and like really get to talk to some of them. He was someone I talked to about, and we definitely had a lot of things where like we were vibing with, because we're both nerdy dudes. And so he reached out to me for it. And I think it's also part of a thing of like, all right, also getting someone from that, as well as someone who, I definitely have made a name for myself. And
Mhm.
there's also the thing of like me being from Darman, me having somewhat of a fan base. It's like that is someone that could bring attention to that. So I think all those things, and I never like fully asked Jake about it because I just kind of got the offer, and I was like, yeah, I'm for it. He didn't tell me what tribe I was on though.
Uh,
So, yeah, when that happened, I was a little reluctant at first because, with how fans vs favorites went, I wasn't too happy with how I wouldn't say how I placed or anything, but like more so of like it's not the game that I wanted to play.
mhm.
And we've already talked about that. But like basically it's like, well, I really don't feel like they got to know the real me or anything like that. And so, but when Jake told me that it was heroes versus villains, and I didn't even know what tribe I would be on, that was a childhood dream because I started watching Survivor like seriously. I would watch little episodes here and there when I was younger, but I didn't really start watching until Tocantins. My first full season was Samoa, and obviously around that time frame, heroes versus villains. So like this was giving past Ryan a chance to live his dream. So I couldn't pass up on the offer. I was nervous, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was an alternate for the season. I wanted to be out there with you in the season because it is I Heroes versus Villains is definitely like every Survivor fan loves the theme purely because that one season was, one of the best. And so, it was really cool to see that at least, I got to still root for, you to be on the season and see you, be able to play and do another mini because, you were so much fun in fans versus favorites that, I was like,
I was.
heck yeah, let's see Ryan, go again. So,
Let's
so
see if
yeah,
he can get beat his record of more votes.
yeah.
Was not really possible this season,
Yeah.
but um, you know, it was something where I was a little excited, nervous because we talked a little bit. So for guys at home, we filmed his tell all for Big Brother Vanquish and my tell all. We're filming it back to back. So if I reference things from his, that's probably why. But it's like I didn't know what my reputation was, honestly, with Vanquish. I know, like, obviously, I got lot of votes against me. There was one game night I went to, and they were talking about Ryan, and I was like, "Who? Like, what, me?" It was like, "No, Ryan Reed." I'm like, "What's he like?" And they said the exact opposite of me, and I legit thought, "Oh, wait, so is Ryan Reed like a big shithead or something?" I didn't say that out loud, but I was like, in my head, I was like, "Oh no, he's basically like the Colby Donaldson of Vanquish, essentially."
Mhm,
But so I didn't really know what my perception was. Because obviously I see me as me and you see me as, friend. I know
mhm,
Cameron didn't like me too much. Portia, we have this love-hate thing. So yeah, and I did talk to Pirate Sarah the day earlier and, like, earlier that day for, like, a little Vanquish thing that she was putting together. It wasn't like a little video based off of
mhm.
this TikTok trend, and so, like, I was like, "Hey, alliance?" Because I really only knew her from, the chats and whatnot for when we were watching your season,
Mhm,
but we never had like a deep conversation. But I was also a big fan of hers because, like, one, her aesthetic, I was like, fuck yeah. Two, um, you know, funny enough, the first like episode of Vanquish I actually watched was her elimination back in seven. So it's this weird kind of like tie where I was almost on that season in the sense of like if I realized I got messages from Kristen's, I probably would have ended up on that season and then talk about a butterfly effect. But
mhm.
like when I was looking through the people through that season before it started, Pirate Sarah stood out to me immediately. And so anytime she was like on one of them, I was like, oh, that's gonna be cool. I hope she does well. And the first season of her full season I watched, it was a mini, it was milestone mini. She went out pretty early. But I don't know. I always thought she was gonna be a cool person to work with going into
Nice.
it.
Nice. That's a pretty good segue here for my first question of this season, though. Um,
Uh,
how was your pre season talks? Because they released the chats open, quite a little bit before the season actually started.
yeah,
So who were the people who who you initially were gravitated towards? Who did you not talk to? Um,
yeah.
and how important were these for when the season actually began, or did it even matter? Did it all change when it started?
Well, this thing, it was even before the chats opened. They announced the entire cast.
Yeah.
Well, who the current cast was going to be up until that point. Like, if you look at the trailer and you look at who ends up on that stream, totally different. I wouldn't say totally different. There
Mhm,
was two substitutions on the villain tribe and one on the heroes tribe, and two people didn't end up showing up. Um, so on each respective tribe. So it looked a little different. So when the trailer came out, I already knew one, I was shocked I was on the villain tribe. Apparently, that's because when I was filming all the different stuff for the trailer, I had one improv line, and it was like, "Did someone say more screen time?" And apparently that was the thing that put me on the villain tribe. Honestly, there's a few reasons why I end up on the villain tribe. I lied about my career. I lied about, I pretend to be weaker. I did try and manipulate people and be like, Portia is threatening not using or Portia is using being able to get on the show as leverage against people. I think that's bad. And then like, oh, she's threatening not to use people on the show. Talking bad about people if you don't work about with her as producer. So like, there was definitely villain stuff. Also the vanity,
mhm,
which is all like a show thing. But like, you know, uh, that was also one of the personas I learned I had. It was like, oh, Ryan talks too much and he's full of himself. Um, so there was a few things where I ended up in the villain tribe, and I was looking at that roster. I recognized a few faces, and Pirate Sarah was on there, and Rachel was on there.
mhm,
Pirate Sarah, I was already talking to was all right, cool. Already have established. Now I actually have to start like talking to her. And then she already kind of like mentioned someone's name, and it was Debbie as a target. Now, I've come to actually know Debbie a little bit, because of the Big Brother, she was in VIP as well,
Mhm.
and she did basically Debbie reached out to me, like, a day later and was like, "Hey, we just wanna talk about Alliance," and I was like, "Is this a test? Is Pirate Sarah that Debbie was the target? Is this a test of trust and whatnot?" So the game started super early in my book, and so I'm like, "Alright, I'm gonna tell Pirate Sarah that Debbie tried to reach out to me, so that way I can garner favor with Pirate Sarah." Debbie eventually had to drop kinda early on, and so, like, I'm like, "Okay, I proved trust, and I didn't have to get any blood on my hands. This
Mhm.
should mean that Pirate Sarah wants to work with me, right?" Um, and then as and then eventually I did reach out to Rachel because I was like, "Rachel from your season," like, as soon as I saw her, I was like, she seems like someone I would get along with, and that turned out to be true. And so, like, she and I were talking, it was the same day that Facebook crashed. Um, and so we were talking a little bit before then. I didn't reach out to too many people other than those 2 because I really didn't want to come off as I'm, like, just trying to talk to every single person way too early,
Mhm.
to put it too much of a target. I just wanted to get, like, a 2 those 2. Brandon joined the cast, and I'm like, "Okay, there's the Joe connection." I even when we did have, like, chats up, called us the Joe Bros. I was like, "Alright, this is starting to come together. Alright, that's 4, we just need 1 more." And around this time, I was also watching the seasons of everyone that was there, not all the seasons, like, basically, like, if I saw you perform in one, then yeah. So, like, most of the chunk came from 7, 8, and 9, and then, like, some minis here and there. And also 10. And so, like, I was looking at those people that I would be playing with, and, I didn't trust Corey because I saw his season. I'm like, all right, this guy is kind of pulling some stuff that I did in my season, except he's really good at challenges. But I kind of want him on my side because I know he's decent at challenges, but I didn't fully trust him. But I know I really wanted to work with Jem because I knew that she was a strong competitor. It's all funny because like I'm naming off all except for Rachel, people that didn't want to work with me.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know. I hear things here and there, but, it's all who gets the last laugh. But, yeah, so when chats did open up, there was a last minute addition. So Victoria dropped, and then this really changed the course of the game, but Amy got added on. And Amy, I knew from her season, I always thought she was cool, and I knew that she was in the military, and that's always like a because both my parents are vets, that's always something where I'm like, that's kinda like a bonding thing right there.
Mhm.
I've never had the desire to join the military, but that's something like, you served our country, so I have mad respect for you.
Yeah.
And so, like, as soon as she got cast, she was hitting the floor running, and she reached out to me, and then she and I were, like, talking, and then, like, she proposed Final 2 right then there, and I'm like, "With me?
With widow me.
Widow on me." She also realized that I was from Darman, and here's the cool thing about doing it the second time around, I didn't have to lie about
Yeah.
the Darman thing because I was so worried about people knowing that I was an actor because, "Oh, they're gonna target me because of all that." But it was so cool being like, "Hey, I'm me." Um,
Yeah.
and, like, she actually watched Darman, she's like, "I thought you looked familiar." And so, like, we started talking a lot, during the first few days, and Rachel as well. And at this point, with talking with, um with talking with Amy, I realized that her and Pirate Sarah had some beef because they did, Vanquish together, for Big Brother, as well as, like, I think they've done some other stuff, but, like and she was kinda letting me know about Pirate Sarah, how she played Friend Vivor a lot, that she was also probably close to Brandon, stuff like that. And while I'm hearing this information, Rachel is also someone that I'm wanting to work with. I didn't propose Final 2 with her because I know that she is someone, and you told me this, where everyone feels super tight with her. So I always kept her close but I was always like, I never fully I never fully trust her like I did with Amy.
Yeah.
With Amy, it was like, someone I was like, all right, I really do want to work with you. The one thing was this Pirate Sarah and Amy kind of like rivalry that was going on, this pre-existing relationship. Because
Mhm.
coming into this, I didn't really have any apart from Michael, who was on the other tribe, who didn't really get to know me too well when we played. So, my headspace was like, all right, so I really want to work with Pirate Sarah, but also, look, y'all, my love language is words of affirmation and quality time. Amy is giving me a lot of that. Sarah, not so much. Rachel is giving me a lot of that. Brandon, not so much.
Mhm.
So who am I leaning towards? Who
Yeah.
am I hearing things from? I'm gonna go towards them. Um, but like, I did want to kind of play in the middle for a little bit in those early days, be like, all right, what is everyone's like sense? Rachel seemed pretty ambiguous, and I was like also in that same field where I'm like, all right, I can go either way, but I do have a better feeling about Amy. I did tell her that. And then there was uh there was like 2 day the first 2 days we couldn't get into video chats. But on the Thursday before, that's when we could start like video chatting and whatnot.
Uh,
Only through certain times. And then we started video chatting, and then I got a little nervous too. One, because I'm meeting people that I saw. I know like it is like obviously an all-star season, but I'm also geeking out because I've seen these people. Like so I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is Rachel from, Vanquish 10. Oh my gosh, this is Amy from, 9." Even when I met, first video chat with, like, Corey, I'm like, "Shit, this is Corey."
yeah.
In my head, I was, like, fanboying a little bit at certain parts. And, with Amy, I was like, "Alright, I really do wanna work with Rachel. I do get a good feeling for her." And then so the 3 of us made an alliance, and it was the Wolf Pack, and it was based off of one of the GIFs that Rachel put into there. And so we had the Wolf Pack Alliance. We had little nicknames for each other, and I really like that because like I had one alliance, well, two different alliances in my first mini, and that was with Dylan, and then I had one with like Johnny for a little bit, but Johnny was short lived, and Dylan, we kind of lost touch with each other day two. And so like and then Dylan was part of a lot of other alliances.
Mhm.
So, this is like the first like legit alliance I ever had. And I was like excited. Um, Also coming into this game, this is a very important thing. I wanted to play as a hero because when I got into the villain tribe, I was someone where I was like, why am I like pegged as a villain? And then, it did some self reflection, and I'm like, all right, if you want people to see you as a hero, or at least not a villain, your actions have to prove it. So I wanted to come into this game playing as a hero. And how do you do that? You protect people. I was like looking at different Survivor contestants. I'm like, who is some of the who would I consider heroes? And two people kind of stood out. Yule from Cook Islands, where he got his alliance to the end, and Rupert, undeniably Rupert, especially when he sacrificed his game for his wife. So I'm like, all right. So I kind of wanted to play a little bit like Yule, where I'm like, I want to have like two people that I can go all the way to the end with, and Amy and Rachel were those 2, and I'm like, I will do what it takes to help protect them, because if I care about someone, I'm gonna do better, and
Uh,
so I cared about them. And so we had this alliance of 3, and then like, "Alright, we need 2 more people in." So a big part of the meta early on was people who were talking. Now,
uh,
granted, I didn't automatically go to JJ. I didn't automatically go to Corey because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like overplaying or over talking. But apparently, a lot of people were talking to each other. But the people that weren't really talking were Brandon, supposedly Pirate Sarah, um, Cody, who is one of the people that didn't show up, he didn't even look in the chat from what I understand.
Yeah.
So, like, Cody was, like, going to be the first boot no matter what. And then Jen. So, like, we kinda labeled them as Ghost, except for Pirate Sarah. Pirate Sarah was kinda there, but she was also doing Twisted Sister around the same time. So, like, we get that. Also, I think her kids were on spring break.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, alright, if the 5 of us are talking and they're not, why don't we just make Final 5? Or why don't we make a 5-person alliance here? And then I started reaching out to Corey. Amy did kinda was like, "Alright." Amy was someone where I'm like, "I'm gonna definitely take her, follow her because I didn't wanna be a leader.
Mhm.
2, she was also smarter than me,
Yeah.
and I think I learned specifically from this mini, I'm not smart. And it's so fucking refreshing coming to that realization that you are not smart because it's a heavy burden off your shoulders.
Uh-huh.
Um, I told some friends that I may come off as a know-it-all, but I know I don't know everything. And I did know, like, all right, Amy knows more about this game than I do. I know, like, Survivor, but playing the game, she has more experience. So I'm going to
Uh,
take her lead on a few things. And one of the things was starting to reach out to Corey, started to reach out to JJ because, like, I was a little on the fence about Corey because of I've seen his video or I've seen how he's played before, and he
uh-huh.
will feign like being on the bottom and stuff like that, to try and get advantages or whatnot. And Summit was kind of like confirmed, so I'm like, okay. So I reached out to JJ. JJ was the only one on our tribe that wasn't Vanquish, and so he was actually in an act really good position because everyone wanted to kind of work with him at some capacity. And JJ was someone like, all right, he's someone where he doesn't know too much. I played this game. I did watch the seasons, but I didn't tell anyone I watched in preparation 7, 8, and 9 in their entirety. I told them that, yeah, I've watched the minis and stuff, but where would I find the time to watch everyone else's? Uh, I found the time. It's literally just not going to the movies, not playing video games as much, just like turn on Vanquish whenever you could.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, which, gave me a sense of like, all right, how do these people play? For the most part, at least. And so I was really on the fence with Corey, but at the same time, I knew I had to be cool with Corey because I wanted to make I had a challenge beast that was on my side. Jen's not talking to me. Corey, I know is a challenge beast, so okay, let me roll with Corey. And
Mhm.
so, like, there were a few times I was trying to get to know him. I know he said that I did a lot of the talking and stuff, that I was just rambling on and on. I do ramble. I'm aware of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
But
as
also,
living proof, I ask you one question and we're like 30 minutes into that one question.
because so much happened, dude. Uh, so, uh, when we get into this, um, and I let Amy know that I was a little on the fence with Corey. I didn't say why, but I'm like, I don't know, because Corey slipped up when we first talked. He said, "Oh, hey, I want to go." My original season, I'm letting him tell me about it, and then he's talking about, "Oh, I I wasn't pretty much the leader of my thing, and I really wanted to go against my alliance and stuff." And I'm like, "You wanted to do what now?" In my head, that's what I'm going like, "You want to go against your alliance? Is that what you're telling someone that you're trying to get into alliance with?" Like, that's
Yeah.
kinda giving me the ick right now. And so I didn't try to talk too much strategy. I knew from his season because he was wearing a Six t-shirt that he loved musical theater or was a fan of that. So we talked about that. I got to know him, like he lived in Texas. I learned some personal stuff about him and like, how he kind of lives, how he got into being an orthodontist, some other stuff like that. And then I really wanted to make sure, like, oh, I genuinely wanted to be friends with him. So I would schedule talks with him. So I was like leaning into that more. And so, yeah, and so around this time, Thursday, we were starting to create the chatter boxes because we were the only 5 talking.
Mhm.
Well, I know 3 of them weren't because Brandon was off being in college. Um, Jen, unfortunately, like for her, it was a time where 1, she was already doing an org, and 2, she was spending a lot of time with her mother, which she
Mhm.
let everyone know during the, mini and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then Cody, MIA.
Yeah.
I won't
Yeah.
even say just M. He
Yeah.
wasn't in action.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say also Jen, I know she told me during my Big Brother sing-a-sin that she was basically told by Jake to just cause chaos to get out early because she couldn't be there for day 2. So
It really pissed me off too. We'll get to that.
yeah.
Um, I love Jen as a person. I think she's very entertaining, and I think she actually reminds me of a relative of mine.
Hmm.
But yeah. Anyway, so and then the chatterboxes came together. And the chatterbox forming is very important because if you watch that, people talked about Chattergate and what that all was. So, with that, 5 being there, I was even talking to my wolves, Rachel and Amy. I'm like, we have majority. And so when we were talking about this, it's like, all right, well, we got allies who are our targets. And so everyone kind of agreed that Cody and Jen would be the first 2 boots. And then I was like, all right, that leaves us at 7. There's going to be an 11. He said that, Jake said that it was going to be either at 12 or 11
Hmm.
that we were going to be where the merge started. And I kind of had a feeling that was probably going to be 11. And so I was like, all right, so that's probably going to be 6-5 if things go right. And so when I'm talking, I was like, all right, well, what do we do after that? And so, like, Pirate Sarah scared the shit out of me. So I'm like, "All right, maybe we go after Brandon afterwards," stuff like that, and then, like, it started to upset Amy a little bit that I was, like, dodging trying to go after Pirate Sarah, and then I was in a call with her and Rachel, and then I was like, "Amy, yo, can we, like, talk afterwards?" And then she was, like, saying, like, "Why aren't we just going to get rid of Pi," or, like, she didn't flat out say it. I kinda had to be like, talk to her. And like one thing that I wanted to do going to this game is take accountability when I mess up.
Hmm.
Um, and like when I was talking to her and stuff, and we were going around all these things, it was like, well, it seemed like, well, Pirate Sarah, is that who you want to go after first? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, it's okay. I know it's scary to like name out a name. That's why I just wanted to make allies in the beginning. But that's part of the thing we have to do. And like we're close to each other, so I trust you. So obviously, you can tell me who you want. And Rachel was a little on the fence. She really wanted to play it ambiguous. And then one thing, and I even told Amy that I'm not always sure where Rachel's head is at. Like, I will go to bat for Rachel, but I don't know fully where her head is at.
Yeah. I mean
And you know that.
that's yeah, that oh yeah, that's very fair.
Yeah.
She's uh can be extremely emotional. She can be very like cold, like cutthroat, logical, and make the big move. Like she can be on any
Yeah.
side, and you have no idea which one you're going to be dealing with her.
Yeah. And like, here's the thing. I was talking to Amy and I was talking to Rachel a lot throughout it. And it was just so like I genuinely got bonds with both of them. And so, it's like I really wanted this to work out. And I didn't know if that was just me hoping things could, work out. Because I'm someone where, you know, it's tough because you want to trust people. But at the same time, I have trust issues. I do. Not just in games, but in IRL. Because I've been burned so much and because uh, I've had bad reads on situations before. So I don't really trust A, my judgment, and B, what other people say to me.
Yeah.
So I knew that obviously it's an obstacle. I had to be aware of it. I wouldn't say it was an obstacle. I had to be aware of it. But as the day of approached and people were talking, I talked to Pirate Sarah here and there, but it was never anything too deep. She said mentioned possibly a 4 between me and some other people, and I was actually asking, like, "What about Brandon?" and something in this, and she was like, I don't know," and something like that. Um, but like she never talked too much strategy with me. Um, Seeing her head at, she's not really telling me too much. And so I'm like, okay, she's definitely someone that has to go. And then this was happening like a couple hours beforehand. But Corey told Amy that there was a chat between Brandon, Pirate Sarah, Rachel, and himself. And when that happened, I'm like, oh no, 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 no. Okay, this is bad. This is very bad because we're about to go into this. And the thing is, it's like, I'm like, what are we gonna do? I did try. Brandon started actually talking this day, and beforehand, I wanted to keep that door open, and I also knew that he was close with Sarah, so I was gonna be like making sure whatever I say lines up with whatever I told Pirate Sarah. And then I was like being like, dude, people are already talking and stuff. And when I talked to him that way, it was the first time meeting him as well, like video chatting with him. And I know that's an error on my part because like at my point, my head is already in the game. You are approaching day 1 where I'm approaching this day 5. Um and you told me he had the impression of like I was talking down to him or I thought I was better with him, which I'm gonna be a little salty. Is how he started to treat me day 2 and kind of a little bit after this. Um, but it was something where I did want to work with him because you and I are really good friends. And obviously, I'm like, all right, this is someone I could. So I also want to keep that door open and also make Pirate Sarah think that, all right, I'm at least like willing to work and stuff like that. And it's matching up the narratives.
Yeah.
And so in all this chaos, I'm trying to also, there's a group of 6 that came together and it was the Villainous Six. So everyone except Jen, Cody, who wasn't there, and Amy. And apparently, Amy and Pirate Sarah didn't really talk at all until I'd say maybe like an hour before the minis actually started. And so, like, when I first approached JJ, there was like a serious talk he and I had of like, hey, so there's a four that was formed between I listed the 4, the Fiendish 4, as they were called, as I learned in Corey's. Apparently, Corey was all in on that 4. I don't know why he told Amy if he didn't have the intention of keeping that 4.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
especially early on, like, maybe if you were trying to do, like, a late game, like, pivot, but
which is which is why I thought Corey was on the Chatterbox's side, because why would you blow that up
yeah,
if you didn't, if your allegiance wasn't to us?
yeah,
So I don't know. Pirate Sarah was on that call. Maybe he felt pressured. I'm
yeah.
playing. There is love with Corey, and he did say some stuff in his tell all that's on Jake's channel that I'm someone where I like to take accountability. I like to improve. He made some things I'm aware of. Still working on the whole chatterbox thing.
Yeah, yeah,
But, you know, I'll let you get to it, but I want to get the story. So I was like letting JJ know, I was like, hey, we're on the bottom of this like 6-person alliance and stuff. So I was like being like, okay, so I can, so I'm already tight with the wolves and stuff. What about the other 2? I don't want them to feel on the outs. So I need to find a genuine way to make a final 3 with them. And so this was the perfect opportunity because I got JJ scared because he was an alliance. He wasn't in that core alliance. And I'm like, all right, you and I need to stick together because I don't know what the fuck is gonna happen. And then Corey and all of us ended up on a call. It was like, hey, it looks like we're gonna be in the middle of whatever this is. We need to stick together. And so I genuinely made a final 3. It wasn't like, hey, we should do it. It was like, all right, strategically, it's good for us 3 to stick together because we're in the middle and we have to kind of go wherever the chips lies and things are about to get crazy. So I achieved what I wanted. Now I had a final 3 with and it wasn't the one that I wanted. It's like if I just so happened where my 2 allies went out, okay, I can kind of side with this one and it aligns, but my core everything was for the wolves, the wolf pack.
mhm,
So like I had that in case Corey wanted to try some shit or whatnot, I can call him out on it, or like, all right, he thinks I have a number, but psych, and I can, get him and whatnot. So I had that. And then the games were about to begin.
Yes. Okay. So that was quite the the
There's a
speed.
lot that happened,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, I know. I'm just giving you some shit here.
I know. Okay,
But
Corey.
yeah, so the game starts here. Now I would say I assume the hero tribe would be the better tribe in terms of strength, in terms of the challenges. Not the case that we end up getting here,
No,
as the villain tribe is absolutely dominant. How did it feel being on a dominant pre-merge tribe?
it felt awesome, especially because in Fans versus Favorites 3, I went to tribal all but once. I know I'm not the Heather, I think Heather, apart from like obviously tribals where, there was two teams going, was a part of each one and she ended up winning. So in a way she pulled like Denise Stapley. But like at the same time, um I only had one thing of like relief, and that was when we won the one challenge. In this one, it was nice because like, all right, we don't have to vote anyone. We can relax. I can eat my sandwich
Uh,
in peace. Um, and then so the thing is, it's like we pretty much did buddy system. None of us went off and talked and whatnot. A lot of us already had our fill of that, except for Jen, who's kind of playing catch up. And so we kind of buddy system on the beach. So like we didn't go to any of the other breakout rooms. It was like specifically, we're staying here. We're not going off. We have to pee or whatever. We'll turn off our camera. But no, we were buddy systeming the entire time.
Yeah. Now I do want to bring up this thing because I'm a proponent of, if you got some fat on a tribe, to maybe throw a challenge. Maybe you need to go a couple of times. Um, do you feel like that could have potentially gotten rid of some problems that end up happening going into day two had you gone maybe one or two more times?
It really depends. I mean, we're underselling the part of like, so the kind of meta that was formed with this was the whole summit twist. When we're going into that, we didn't know what it was. We thought it would be something where it would be like, the prisoner's dilemma or something like that. And this was an important thing when we were pre-strategizing. We wanted to make sure that it was hopefully one of the wolves that went, or one of the chatterboxes. And Corey said, I'm not going because he had a terrible experience with his summits that he went to. And so I'm like, okay, we just have to keep it within the four. And what do? We let our target, the person that we're trying to get rid of, first. We're gonna send her to summit. Yeah, I was like, good work, team. Good work, team. Thanks. Mm-hmm. And so, it's one of those things where that played a factor into it. And so, like, trim the fat. I could have been the fat if this Fiendish Four was the real thing. Now, granted, Rachel didn't have was having power issues, so like she was only really part of the first two challenges, and then she was kind of absent for the rest of the night one. So I feel like Jen would have left. The thing is with Rachel, I don't know if we actually eliminate her, or they're like, we get rid of Ryan, or we get rid of this. And the meta of the summit, apart from the first one, was that if you're going to tribal, if you're like a hero going to tribal, the advantage would be used on that. The only difference was when we did the flip cup thing in the beginning, who got an advantage. That's because we didn't know who was going to tribal. And Susan wanted to do the opposite of what I did. She's like, I'm changing up my strategy. Let's do the villain thing. And then they went down the list. They checked it twice, and they're like, "Oh, Ryan, fuck you. Take a vote." And I'm like watching it. They get a pass a little bit because they thought I was tall. I am not tall, guys. I'm 5'8", but like, you know, there was like, oh, that one dude with sunglasses.
Yeah.
Which when they said that, and then when I watched back and I'm like, made my comment, I was like, is it because of the sunglasses? Is like pure like something out of a sitcom. But um, so I honestly don't know if trimming the fat would have been best for my game.
Mhm.
I honestly didn't want that because, you know, I, thing is like, yeah, I'm afraid. I was afraid to go to tribal because going into this, I didn't feel like anyone had any faith in me,
Mhm.
not even myself. Um,
Drafted you first.
you're obligatory. You were obliged,
I was forced
and
to
you fucking
in my,
know it. We
yeah.
talked about we talked about it,
Yeah.
and you were worried about it.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't know if I was put on the seat. Yeah, because I'm a big personality, but also I could have very much been put on the season as like tribal fodder.
Uh,
Um, and so I could have went home early. Now, if we lost that last challenge and Amy could have granted me safety. That is a big possibility. But I know when I went, the reason why, other than wanting to play like a hero, like if I got a twit, the advantage disadvantage was you could be villain or be a hero. And if I went with the villain one, that already disproves what I came here to do. And I'm like, all right, well, who can I protect? I'm going to protect Rachel because her power's out. She is a close ally. Maybe this gains favor with her, and maybe she chooses me over the Fiendish Four if that was a real thing, or like over Pirate Sarah and stuff, because I did this for her when she could have been the easy vote out. Um, so I didn't really personally want to trim the fat, mostly because like maybe I was the fat, and then also didn't have an idol, so obviously I didn't feel safe.
uh, yeah. Yeah. I guess I mean, I know we play the games very differently. I feel like I can get a really good grip on a lot of people, and then I'm like, these people I'm really confident in, and then there's like usually two or three people who I'm not, and I'm like, these are the people who kind of need to go immediately, especially going into like a merge situation where, they're going to be willing to jump ship and tell people everything basically.
Well, yeah. Um, but here's the thing, and I know I'm obviously using 45 as an example,
Mhm.
but if we look at Reba and what they did, and we even look at 46, yeah, I'm wearing their buff for now. But if we look at 46, they're like, all right, who are you willing to offer up on your tribe and whatnot? And so, in my perspective, we had two people because now whether or not Pirate Sarah and Brandon were true bottom, who knows? We
Yeah,
didn't get to test that. So Corey said he was on their side. Was that really the case? Would have been better
yeah,
for his game to go with the people that who knows? Because Sarah was a big threat. That's why she was the big target,
yeah,
even though we didn't go for her. I digress.
yeah,
But it's one of those things where you can play what ifs until you're blue in the face. All we can really go off of is what happened.
yeah. Yeah, I do know that Brandon was saying that there definitely was probably going to be moves against you in the early stages. That
Well, I
uh
mean, because the thing is, it was like in that Fiendish Four, we were 5 and 6, and Amy and Sarah did talk, and they hashed out beef. Now, it could have been a thing where Amy saved herself from being the first one eliminated, if that was the case, if the Fiendish Four were going through with their plans. But if it wasn't her, could have easily been JJ or myself. So yeah, I
okay.
can't rely. Thing is, it's like sometimes it's just straight up tribe chemistry.
Uh
Maybe I didn't fully have it, and so
yeah.
I got lucky. We won a lot, and importantly, I was able to kind of like. be like, okay, I'm actually better at these challenges than I thought.
Mhm.
Um, Especially an early one, like, for the last challenge we did with the pencil thing, I was, like, the last person to drop, but we already had won at that point, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "That was pretty cool." So yeah, um,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, it's like, you never really know.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I could have
Definitely.
been the fat.
Yeah. Um, let's talk about we're talking about challenges a bit here. What was the decision process to have you do the Guess Who challenge for the immunity? Did you just volunteer yourself, or was there a lot of talk?
I did, I was also like, because we do this podcast, I was like, I'm very knowledgeable, so, like, and especially because 'cause we've done Brant Steels, I'm a bit more, and I don't wanna say we scrape bottom of the barrel for some of the contestants, but sometimes, especially if we've done, like, unsung heroes or very obscure ones or purple edits, there are
Yeah.
some people I'm a bit more familiar with than others.
Mhm.
So, I feel like I was probably the best one to do it, apart from Corey.
Yeah.
And then also me and my catchphrase, "Did someone say more screen time?" It was probably best. Now they could help out in the challenges. I will say it was hard to, like, be like, "Hey, answer this question. Now answer this question. Ask question in 5 seconds, and also look at the chat." It was a lot to manage. And so
Yeah.
I would see things here and there that my team was doing, but, like, I was, like, wrapped up in the challenge.
Yeah.
And, it was pretty cool going head to head against Kevin. Like, I love that challenge even if I lost, because it was like,
It
I
was
thought it was
fun.
cool.
I honestly, like, if you ever just wanna do that just for funsies, like, I do like, that did seem like a
I'm
lot of
game.
fun. Um,
I'm game.
but unfortunately, this is the one challenge that, the
Yeah.
villains end up losing, and then you go to Summit. You go on your Summit here. How h Now I wanna know how you felt this Summit trip with Michael Wentz.
Well, first, going into Summit, so, like, I was fighting to get to Summit because first Jen goes, then Brandon goes, who I thought I could have potentially been good with, but I kind of left that up. But, like, because with the Fiendish Four and stuff, I was like, okay, clearly I'm not on his side. He doesn't care. And so then we rock paper scissors who would go next. So JJ ended up going next with Erica,
Mhm.
and then of course I don't want to blame Ryan Luck. I try and make it a good thing, but sometimes the universe just really likes rubbing my nose. It's not even that I peed on the floor and then wants to punch me for being a dog. It feels like the universe pisses on the floor and shoves my face and was like, "Bad Ryan." And that was the situation. I kind of feel like it was announced that I was going to be on it, on Summit, and so Michael was probably like a strategic thing because, like, all right, maybe you can get ties. I felt it went well because I generally did want to work with Michael at some capacity. It was also weird because I've never seen him kind of like afraid, and he seemed a little afraid. I mean,
Yeah,
because
so
he said, yeah,
yeah, the reason I wanted to talk a lot about the summit here is so some of us Candyland peeps, we had our own little chats that we were all talking about like what was happening in the game. Um and everyone was like, "Oh, Ryan, look at him, he's making far." And then this summit happened and everyone was like, "Ooh, this is not looking good for Ryan." Um
no,
and I know you, and I know you probably didn't mean it to come off that way, but I did see the kind of like you trying you like you had so much different of an energy level that kind of was off putting. I think for Michael here, that
what do you
definitely
mean?
um, well, you were just like really intense. Like you were like kind of like trying super hard in a way that I think he would like I noticed he wasn't receiving it as well. Like he was okay saying okay to a lot of stuff, but and he to the point where it's just like just do it. Like just let you do it. But it definitely wasn't like it didn't feel like you were working with him. It felt like it became the you were doing it.
We'll say that from what I gathered, and I'm only saying this from this is my perspective. Yeah, I don't always know how I come across,
Yeah.
but we've kind of, from what Brandon told me, from what JJ told me, Jen didn't tell us shit. But what the meta was that the tribe that was going was the tribe that, you know, the advantage or the disadvantage would go to.
Yeah.
And I was well, and like he was offering to do it. And I was like, okay, because I legit didn't know what to do because I'm not gonna lie, the villains got cocky. We
Mhm.
were like, we've won 3 in a row. We didn't we didn't really discuss, and I even told Jen this at Tribal. We didn't discuss what our plan was if this was the case, what we should do
Yeah.
with it because they publicly say it.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, I didn't want to put I was asking advice
Uh-huh.
on what I should do.
Yeah.
And so if it came off a wrong way, this is
Yeah.
part of the reason why I don't want to play these games.
Yeah.
I apparently have zero social awareness of how I come off. Um,
Yeah, I mean it's all good, and also like I know you wanted to play like a hero, and that's like your thing, but I think the fact that you're having to talk to someone from the other tribe and you say I want to save this person, means that you're looking out for someone on their tribe instead of potentially being willing to make a shot on your tribe. So there's actually a weird dynamic of because you were the only one to
yeah.
do it, and I think that especially um does like it makes it hard for the other person who's on a different tribe to like feel good because you only have this little I know you guys did a season together, but having this little moment here is kind of your main thing. It's another thing that kind of like repels someone, I think.
Well, I mean, he and I we'll get to the summit crew and whatnot because
Mhm.
I don't know how much you know about that, but yeah. But when I was talking to him, I also didn't know what to do because I'm also nervous and like this tribe could just as easily. I know the vote is on Jen. They could easily just swing it on me. And then I was just thinking, I'm like, well, if I'm like, because like when you do certain things, when I go back, I have to tell them why I did what I did.
Yeah,
And I didn't know at this point that Jen put a vote on me because she didn't tell anyone.
yeah,
Or she may have told she definitely told people in the chat afterwards. So when that happened, I'm like, all right, Rachel is a good ally. If I put safety on her, I can easily say it's because she didn't have power and it's not fair for her to go home because of an act of God.
yeah,
So that was my thinking going into it, and I was also, like, trying to given 3 minutes to think of
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. Definitely a tough situation, but I like for us as like some of the viewers, like there's a lot of like ooh, not like the collective from the fans was like that was not it was a missed play of the summits. Probably the biggest misplay I would probably say.
I I don't know if it's a misplay, though, and I mean, like, from audience perspective, maybe, but, like, what it does was Michael was trying to get something from me because he even said at the end, "Oh, we're gonna be down on the numbers no matter what, even if you go again, we're gonna need allies." So, like, he definitely wanted to garner favor with me, and I did genuinely wanna work with him, and it's a thing of, like, I accomplished a thing, I didn't go home there. If I ended up
Yeah,
going home there, then yeah, I would say it was
yeah,
a misplay. But the thing is, what I was trying to do was I was trying to make sure Rachel was safe, and I could also use that in the sense of, like, "Hey, Rachel, I don't know if anyone else would have done that for you. I
mhm,
don't know if Pirate Sarah would have done that for you. I
yeah,
did.
yeah.
It could have just as easily been you."
Yeah, I guess when I say misplay really is more the social, like making sure you were actually tight with Michael.
Yeah.
Because you could potentially have gotten heroes to side with you. But I think you you had the ability here to do it, but because of how it went down, it just ends up not happening, which causes the avalanche that happens a little bit later.
I don't. ah, Here's the thing: the audience didn't know about the Summit Alliance or the Summit Crew, as it was called. And this is very important when it came to day two.
Mhm.
It was something where we have 3 minutes to do a decision, like we talked about in yours. We're trying to get to the merge and whatnot. Right now, that's what
Yeah.
we're thinking of. I can make a deal with the heroes and whatnot all I want, but it doesn't matter if I'm not there to do it.
Mhm.
Um, was it a missed opportunity? If it was like if we weren't able to talk to each other until the next tribal count or talk to each other until the next mini, like we were forbidden to talk to each other, maybe. But because we had that the whole day once chats open up again and when the merge chat opens where we could message each other,
Mhm.
I knew I could talk stuff out. So I wasn't,
Yeah.
you know, could I handle it better? Yes, I could have. But at the same time, I can see how some people see it as a misplay, but at the same time, my objective there wasn't necessarily to fully work with him. I was like, all right, what am I going to do for this decision? And that's the thing. Sometimes, like, if where I'm presented with something, I'm like, all right, how are we going to solve this problem? It's not like I'm going to be talking with them, especially because they were starting to speed things up. We didn't have 5 minutes, we had 3 minutes. And I had to
Yeah.
be like, all right, I have to make this decision. We already
Mhm.
kind of know each other. Um,
Yeah.
if I had maybe 5 minutes, maybe I could have done more, but at the same time, we only had three.
Yeah.
And my ass could have been on the line.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I feel like in that situation, because especially with the meta, like pretty much like whatever tribe goes kind of makes the decision. I definitely think you should honestly just use the first 2 minutes to just like talk. Like don't worry too much about strategy and honestly just like make sure that you are solidified like just as like like person to person. Because
that's fair.
in that situation, like you're making sure that when you hit the merge, you're gonna immediately have like Michael, he's immediately gonna want to talk to you. He's gonna tell you everything that's going on in the hero tribe if you're like really like making sure like, hey, we have each other's back, that like let's, I got you, maybe even give him like small info, I'd say, like, maybe two people who you're not super comfortable with, like tell him like, hey, these people are a duo, like stuff like
Yeah.
that, to like make him feel good. And then use the last minutes to basically say, just be like, okay, so I'm going, Rachel's got power issues, is it okay if I just save her? Like,
Uh,
yeah.
I'm gonna let you, or like, basically, legit, what you said is what I was doing on day two
Uh,
in the beginning. Because Michael, because he lives across the pond, he was up early. I'm naturally an early riser because he was like one of the first people apart from Amy that I was talking to. Amy was on a plane too, so she couldn't
mhm,
video chat, which definitely affected the game, not gonna
yeah.
lie. But all those stuff I did, but it was the next day. All the
Mhm,
stuff you said I could have done in 2 minutes, I had the next day to do. And I
mhm,
did those things. Let them know about Pirate Sarah and Brandon being like those are a duo. And then
mhm,
there's probably more I could have accomplished with that if things didn't spiral out of control and
yeah.
I didn't spiral. But
Interesting that
yeah,
you chose Pirate Sarah and Brandon. Because I mean, it seems like from what you've been saying, I feel like Corey is the one who clearly should have been
yeah,
putting your spidey senses.
there's more to the story.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know, I know. We're about to get here to Chattergate. Honestly, just go ahead and if you want to just tell us about everything that happens
well,
with
no,
it.
no, no. I feel like there's definitely a lot of we'll keep it to night one first, but I did, especially because of like the whole Michael thing, and then some people perceive that as a misplay. Did I fully use it the best of my abilities? No. But I accomplished the goal of what I set out because I already had somewhat of a pre-existing relationship with Michael, and I was going to be able to talk to him the next day if we both made it. So, yeah. Um, all right. So, and okay, so when we went to the vote, when I went back from Summit, I told everyone what I did.
Uh,
And then Jen looked a little like pissed. And then some people were like, all right, are we going to scatter? Are we going to scatter? And then people started going off to breaking rooms. And then we're like, all right, is the vote still the same? We're still doing this, right? It's still Jen. Yeah, yeah. And apparently this happened. Jen was already throwing my name out. She was like going crazy and whatnot and being like, hey, let's do an all women's thing. And apparently Brandon heard that. Brandon might have said that he probably would have voted for me in that vote. But when she said that, it was like, oh yeah, can't do that.
mhm.
Because like, it's not his pronoun. So like
Yeah.
he's not gonna like be on board with that. Um oh shit, my ring light went out. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, so it was kind of like pandemonium for a little bit. I'm kind of figuring I might have been the vote, but at the same time, like we agreed on Jen. If she
Mhm.
found the idol, then I'm fucked. And then apparently Amy was in a room with Corey and JJ, and Amy was like, "Should we put two votes on someone else just in case she Jen plays an idol?" And for what Amy tells me, they were like, "Well, it's not us, so."
Are you there or are you just frozen? I have no idea. It's impossible to tell. Oh, I think he's just gone. I mean, this is the greatest picture of Ryan frozen because you really can't tell what's going on with him. Um, is well, what happens? My internet's good. Okay, I guess I'll pause. Okay, and we're back.
Sorry, power was weird where I was at. So, yeah. So, um, we're just gonna start. So, yeah, Jen was trying to put votes on me. She was going ballistic like you said she was going to. And then apparently Amy was in a room with JJ and Corey, and then they were like, and Amy's like, all right, do we put two votes on someone else just in case she plays an idol and whatnot? And then Corey and JJ were apparently like, well, it's not them, so I guess I was okay. I was disposable. So I was like, wow, that feels nice. Thank you guys. Didn't realize that until Amy messaged me after we made it to merge, and we were able to message each other the rest of the night. And so what happened from there? Um, you know, I knew Jen was gunning for me at that point, and so I went into travel. I'm like, she has an idol. I'm fucked. And like she was talking and stuff. I wanted to believe everyone, and I kind of like knew in my heart, but at the same time, just the way she was acting and stuff, I'm like, I don't think she has an idol because it seems like she's still rallying to get votes. I'll be honest, when you told me that she had no intention of being day two, I watched back and I was pissed
uh,
because no, it's not even a thing of like, yeah, be chaotic and stuff, but at the same time, it's like you have someone who actually put in effort in this game and whatnot. And if you weren't able to make day two, I get it, that's fine. But you could have been like, yo, I can't make it to day two. Apparently, she did tell that to Pirate Sarah at some point, but at the same time, it's like basically putting a bigger target on me than what I did. Um, Rattled so much, and then it's like, well, thank you. Um, and when I'm always someone where I'm like, if someone doesn't give it their all, or if someone is kind of like half-assedly doing something, and I'm not talking about throwing a challenge or something like that, but if your heart's not fully into it and you place or like and you're doing better than me, it irritates me. Or not even that. It's like if you're targeting me and your heart is not fully into this, or like for you putting up so much of a fight for someone who did dedicate the time, who did that. And granted, she didn't know who I was.
mhm,
She did she was spending time with her mom, I get it. But, like, if she gotten to know me, because she was like, "I go hard for my teammates," and stuff like that, I'm like, "So do I." and you would know that I've wanted to work with you in the beginning. I didn't tell her. I told her that I did sincerely did want to work with her in the beginning, but it just never happened that way.
Yeah.
Um, but for her to do what she did, if she had no intention of being there night 2, that leaves a sour taste in my mouth. I think she's cool, I think she's entertaining and stuff, but that was shitty.
Mhm.
She should have pulled the Tanya
Yeah.
and, like, been like, "Yo, I can't do night 2. This is a free out."
Yeah. Well, Tanya ends up doing it anyways. She kept going because she was so upset that people might have wanted to take her
No, I'm
out.
talking about the fans versus,
Oh,
favorites versus Vanquish mini where she was like, "I have a concert the next night.
got it.
Deuces."
Yeah, I haven't
Um,
seen that one, but I just knew that all my season that she was going to do the exact same thing, and I refused to let her do that.
yeah. But, yeah,
Yeah,
so I was l when I heard that, I was irritated. I was a little bit because, like, it didn't have to be that way.
yeah,
Yeah, I understand putting a vote on me in the beginning. It sucks, honestly, because it's like, no matter what I do, I'm just a target.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyways, she ends up going home. You're still in the game. Someone who potentially, you weren't working with really is gone. So that is a
Wasn't working with,
yeah.
period.
Yeah, exactly. So they're gone. And then we talked a little bit about that other challenge, then the following challenge you guys win. And that's is the end of day one, is the
Yep.
heroes vote out.
By the way, I called that challenge. I knew it was gonna happen. I didn't know it was gonna be the Italian hands, but I was, like, thinking of, like, why do we have 2 pencils that are, like, supposed to be unsharpened? I'm like, "We could be, using the ping pong balls and, like, balance that," so I called it. I've called a few challenges, which I was impressed. Led to a fun little fourth wall break, on day 2, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you survived day one. Made the merge again. Now we need to know. This is where all hell broke loose. What? Just. I'm just doing. Want to know. Tell us what happened with Chattergate. Like what went down?
Alright, I will talk about Chattergate. So, essentially, there was the Chatterbox, group chat. And so it was, the 5 I told. Rachel, myself, Amy, Corey, and JJ. And so that was like the 5. That was the core 5 and whatnot. And so all of us except for Amy, were available for video calls because Amy was on a plane. You can't do video calls on a plane. One, that's rude. Two, I think it's illegal. Anyway, so she was only able to message, and so the Villainous 6 chat was still open, and so, like, we were talking through there and whatnot for a little bit, and at this point in the game, those connections that everyone thought I wasn't trying to make and whatnot? Um, I was making that, and because I knew that Pirate Sarah might try and go for the heroes because she feels on the bottom or might have been on the bottom, I was gonna take initiative, make sure that I get Michael, and then try and get the heroes on my side with what I called the Summit Crew. Well, they called it the Summit Crew. But basically, getting this alliance together. And I double checked with like Amy and stuff too, because I did go ahead of her with doing a few things, but I wanted to make sure that I had that going. So this was all being formed when Chattergate happened. It was supposed to be like an alliance to help me get rid of um, Pirate Sarah and Brandon, but it wasn't something I was like going to the end with. Like Chattergate and most importantly, the Wolves were, the core to get to the end. And also because the night before we ended, it was supposed to be a final two. And that's super important that it was supposed to be, or like that we were told that was going to be a final two, no matter what. Um, So when Chattergate was about to happen, so we were talking with it was the Villainous Six. I forget. I think someone was off chat and whatnot. We were talking for a while, And then we were still kind of like figuring out like stuff of like, oh, they got idols on the hero tribe. Did anyone find an idol and stuff like that? And then apparently someone must have it and stuff like that. And I knew that Pirate Sarah was full of shit just based on like, because I caught her tripping up on different lies. I'm not going to call her out on it, obviously, because I want her to think that I'm on her side.
Uh-huh.
But it's like I'm making mental notes, even like playing into it a little bit and being like, all right, let me like look at the message here from when he called me. Oh, you're saying that Anthony told you this? Even though we talked earlier, I'm like, huh. She told me that she wasn't talking to any heroes, and she told me she wasn't talking around this time. So basically, I'm trying to see how many lies I can catch her in.
Mhm.
And so we're keeping the conversation going. And for us, we weren't able to video chat until up to 10 minutes. And then we would either have to create a new chat with maybe some other people or maybe less people, etc. And you would have to wait 30 minutes. So we were talking and whatnot. And we are like, hey, why don't we just keep talking? Now, the villains did have a group we called fucking villains, which was all the villains, the seven of us. And because Amy wasn't available for chats and whatnot, we could have theoretically just gone there, but we basically left, and then I was like, "All right, someone needs to make the chat." Corey made the chat. I started making the chat, but apparently Corey beat me to it,
Mhm.
and then he forgot to add Pirate Sarah. And so he accidentally put Sarah into the Chatterbox chat. Hence Chattergate. And so here's the thing. When I'm talking to someone, like this, or like when I'm on a video call, I try and give them my undivided attention.
Mhm.
So I didn't know that this happened because I'm just focused on talking to everyone, lifting their spirits like, wow, we got this villains and stuff like that. And then I'm someone where I'm like also be like, all right, how much time we have left? And then I think it was Danny, one of the mods was like, yeah, you got 2 minutes. And I was like, well, is there anything else we want to discuss? Corey raises his hand. He's like, so I accidentally added Sarah to the chat, and Sarah's in this as well. And
Uh-huh.
I'm like, and I was like, my bad, that's my fault. Things like that. And then I'm like, and then Jake is like, oh, time is up. I'm like, what? Of course, like we were just shooting the shit the entire time. And then Pirate Sarah, was reading everything, trying to see if they said anything and whatnot. And I'm like, when I found that out, I'm like, okay, Chatterbox is compromised. I need to really play on the fact that this is going to be, the Summit crew is basically the new plan, except obviously I'm going to keep Rachel. And I even told Rachel about the Summit crew and being like, yo, I made this alliance, or Amy's in it too, because, Rachel has this beef with Erica, or had this beef during Erica with the game. And I
Yeah.
wanted the Summit crew to be people from the Summit, what you guys were thinking that I was totally unaware of. Sorry, I'm a little bitter about that. Um, so, we were so like I was already forming this, and I was like, Rachel, and I will even apologize for stuff that happened the day before because there was another thing I will admit I was socially unaware of. I hung up on a call of Rachel to talk to Pirate Sarah, which hurt her feelings, and Amy told me that that happened, and then I apologized to her. I told her everything. Well, not everything, but I was like, reason why I wanted to play like a hero other than change the perspective. I got personal with stuff. I didn't go too far, obviously, but I was like, I wanted to come in this thing to change my narrative. And when I was talking to her, I was like, I know you don't really owe me anything and stuff. Like, I saved you last night. I'm not going to hold you to that or anything, but I do really want to work with you. And I think at this point, I wanted to make sure that I get the three of us to the end, but now it looked like the Summit crew was the best way. And when Chattergate happened, I'm like, okay, my mind started racing. I'm like, all right, I need to find a way to fix this because one of my problems is I'm a fixer. I'm someone where I see a problem or I see a situation that I messed up and I want to fix it. And I know that's not always the best thing, but sometimes I don't realize and stop myself being like, yo, chill. Let's see how things do. It's like, no, I have to fix this because that's my first impulse.
Mhm.
So when Chattergate happened, apparently, Corey and Pirate Sarah, which I didn't know they were a duo because Corey hit it well.
Uh,
Um, because I was like convinced that, oh, Corey was on our side because he told us about the Fiendish Four. And so, yeah, that's Chattergate. And so, like, there was a lot of things going on while Chattergate was going on. So, yeah, I know that's like a big question you had, but there's
yeah,
so much. This is why
yeah.
I joked with Corey that this was going to be the Snyder cut of things because he talked longer than me on Jake. So I'm like, oh, you threw down the gauntlet. I'm gonna make this 4 hours.
Oh
Not
boy.
really,
Yeah. Yeah, I was
but
gonna say, I mean, you tried that. Your the first question, you went 30 minutes of just
there was a lot that
yeah,
happened,
I
dude.
know, I know. Um, but yeah, definitely pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, the tension heading into that day two, like it was crazy. Like everyone could tell that a lot of stuff happened without us actually
Yeah.
being there. Um, so obviously we go into the first challenge
Wait,
of
we're not gonna talk about legit everything that I was alluding to and hinting to?
I mean, we can if you want. I mean,
Yes, that's part of the story.
I will say I do have to go to sleep somewhat soon. So I thought we were gonna. This is definitely going very long. So I'm trying to
A
somewhat.
lot happened.
Yeah.
So, Summit Crew. So, Michael messaged me early in the morning, and then he was the first call I made. And then I was like, "All right, we're trying to think of something. How'd you guys find idols?" And he's like, "Oh, that's something information I have that I can leverage with you and whatnot." And then I was thinking about it for a while because, like, I want to obviously make a deal with him, but I can't. I need to think of something A, he'll believe, B, something that I can do, that Amy will be okay with because she's my number one and whatnot. And I also have to make it seem like it's a good deal for them. And so what I did was I had this thought of like, hey, what if we get JJ, Amy, and myself? Because one, we weren't in that 1-4, even though I was like, well, I mean, Corey wasn't that. But like have these three, and then we went to Summit with people, so we have that connection. If we make the Summit crew, then that's a 6 that we have. That's good for them, and that gives them life in the game, and that's something they can believe. And they were on board with it. The Summit crew was coming together and stuff. And I was even you or like and when Chattergate happened, I'm like, "All right, guys." So I my first call with Erica, and this is the thing of like, okay, I come in direct. Thing is, when shit is happening, sometimes I skip over the pleasantries because I'm someone where I like getting to the point, at least gameplay wise. I'll admit I'll talk around stuff for a while. But anyway, uh so I was like, hey, so a lot of shit just happened, and I'm having a little whiplash from that. But at the same time, like, hey, I am down for this. Just let you know that this is the group I want to go with to 6 and whatnot. We can even get Rachel as kind of like a 7 just to be sure and whatnot. And so the Summit 6 or the Summit crew was trying to form. And so right after Chattergate, I was in a call with Corey because he was acting upset. Or like not upset, but he was like, just vote me out. This is, like it's my fault, my bad. And so I had a conversation with him and I was like legit like trying to like be like, yo, it's okay. We all make mistakes. We still got time. But while I'm talking to him, I'm like, maybe I should throw him under the bus.
Uh,
And so this is where the hero thing started to get away from me. That and starting to spiral because like I'm talking to him, I'm being very like nice. I'm not being overly nice. I'm talking to him like how you and I are talking right now. And I'm like, dude, it's gonna be fine. We got 5 hours to fix this. There's a lot more game to play. We're gonna fix a thing, like you said. Take a walk or something. I might have said take a bubble bath or it's just to be a little funny.
uh,
And then in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna have to throw him under the bus because Sarah knows she's a target now, and she might have 2 idols and might play one on Brandon.
mhm,
So my approach going into the Summit crew. And unfortunately, I didn't bring this up to Amy at first, but I'm like, hey, Summit crew, let's get rid of Corey. Because while Chattergate was, because I'm like, listen, he's someone we can get rid of. He's a challenge beast. I could always cop out as like, hey, he volunteered. And then also, if Sarah plays an idol on herself and Brandon or one of them, it's a wasted idol because she burns them as soon as she gets them for the most part, because that's what I researched. And then also, like, Corey goes home. It's a good blindside that they don't see coming. It might rattle them a little bit and whatnot. And so while Chattergate did happen, I wasn't really a target. What really made me a target was fucking JJ.
Uh,
So
yeah.
JJ and I had like a final two, quote unquote. And so he and I, here's the thing about JJ. He told Jen she was going home. Like, just blatantly said it out loud. I'm like, well, I hope she doesn't have an idol now. I wasn't in the room for that, but apparently that's what he did. I even had to be like, yo, for the future, you got to keep that on the down low in case there's idols and stuff like that. So I was a little worried about, I wouldn't say I talked with him that, but I know JJ's a smart, logical person. So, like, as long as I explain that, I know he's a winner, but at the same time, he's been out of the loop for a while. So, like, I kind of was like, yo. And then, so when I did the Summit Crew thing, first, I had no idea who did this at the time, but someone linked to Corey that I was targeting him. And I originally thought it had to be one of the heroes that did that because Amy wouldn't have. I know that I wouldn't do that. That would have been very stupid of me to do. I'm a little hurt at Amy because she did think that I did for a little bit that I would blow up my game like that when it made 0 sense.
uh,
But no, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, was it actually JJ? But I'm like, I was in denial of it. I was like, no, he wouldn't do something so stupid. And it turned out it was him, but I didn't know that until we were both booted.
yeah.
Um, so when JJ exposed that Corey thing, then the Summit crew was compromised. I had no game. And
Yeah.
then like I didn't know what to do at that point. I went on a walk. I started to spiral. Um, things went, I wouldn't say bad, but then I kind of like realized Amy kind of helped me realize, like, it was like you were in a good position in this game and stuff, and then all this shit happened. And I did have a big chunk of that pie because I was making these moves and whatnot. Granted, two big things went wrong for that as well. One,
Uh,
Corey, which was an accident, but JJ, he's the second biggest piece of that pie that really tanked my game because like if he didn't do that, there's a possibility that things would have worked out. But then again, I know that I was starting to make decisions without my alliance. I wasn't maintaining them as much, and I was putting myself above friends, which is not what a hero does. And then it started making me think of real life events that happened where I lost some friends because of stupid shit I did. And, you know, I got emotional. I was even called out by Brandon, which that really pissed me off because like he didn't know the full story, but apparently he also was messaging me, but it didn't feel like genuine messaging. It was just like felt like taunting message. But, and I didn't really go on too many calls after that. And then at one point, I was just like apologizing. And then I was on a call with Rachel. And Rachel's like, I have no idea what I'm doing at this point. I'm just going to be a rogue vote. She seemed pissed off and stuff. And I'm like, I'm so sorry and everything. And so after our 10 minutes were up, she was even like, what's your plan? And I'm like, get ready for the world's greatest immunity streak ever. Because that was my only condition to make it to the end. I don't even fucking win at that point. Um,
yeah.
But I was like, "Looks like I'm going out 11 again. 11, 11, make a wish." She got a chuckle out of that.
Yeah.
And then when she left, there was a mod left in there, And of all people, it was Alex, my first ever target from Fanverse Favorites 3. And I was like, "How's it going, Alex?" And he's kinda laughing, he's like, "You fucked up, buddy." And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, at this point, I'm already like,
Yeah,
I went through the tears and whatnot, and my only pitch was trying to get the Chatterbox back together.
uh,
Not to win, but to just stick together, and because friendship matters a lot to
uh,
me, and I am not always the best at maintaining that, but I was like, "No, if we get it together, it's something they're not gonna expect." And, like, I felt like this is the 3rd act thing in a movie where it's like, "No, we can get together and do this." But I know the biggest sell was gonna be Corey
yeah,
because I, like, targeted him and I did something fucked up where I was, like, you know, comforting him and then throwing him on the bus. Like, I don't feel
yeah.
proud of
I
that
mean,
moment at all.
I don't think you should be upset about it. I mean, that is literally the nature of the game is to make people not see a blind side coming. Like that is the whole thing of that we why we watch Survivor. Like that is
Yeah,
the best moments is when people tell someone you're okay, you're safe, and then they go to tribal council and that person's not safe, they go home. So I don't think you should
and I
at all take it like you know against you, especially since how the season ends up unfolding. Definitely should not be, upset about any of that stuff, like
well, I
at
mean,
all.
after when I realized he wasn't on my side,
Yeah,
that eliminated a lot of that,
yeah, yeah.
but at the same time
I
yeah.
want to say also, I feel like you should 100% know that a Summit Alliance never works. We've seen it every time on Survivor, and it never works. We're seeing it right now in 46. I mean, obviously, at this time we hadn't seen it, but this is the worst Summit Alliance ever because they're taking each other out. Like the whole thing of
It was disbanded early, yeah.
yeah, but
That
but
was
but that
just something
but
yeah.
the fact that you then mentioned, I think Corey, like clearly that would get leaked out because you have a bunch of people who you're maybe not as tight with some of the people. So there's the variables for it. Something
Yeah.
going up definitely increases.
Well, I thought I was close with JJ. I knew I was close with Amy, though I didn't talk to Amy prior to that. That was a big fault in my game. And then with the heroes, I'm like, yeah, I'm making a risk trusting them, but at the same time, they're on the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm giving them something, you know. But at this but I think the thing is, and we talked about this in yours, but like separating game from this, and like I even talked to Corey after his interview. It was like, and we talked. It was like a message or two, but I was like, he was like, you don't look for character development in this.
Mhm.
I wasn't the first time, and I did, and then this time around, I was seeking redemption. I don't necessarily got it, and then like I said, things went personal because it triggered things in my mind of like real life stuff.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I felt very bad in the moment because of it. And I was genuinely upset because I'm someone where I put my heart into things. That's why I'm such a good actor. That's why, I have to give a shit about something. 'Cause if I
Uh,
don't give a shit about it, I'm not gonna do good in it. And, when we got the chatterboxes together, Amy finally landed. She was able to get into a chat. She wasn't able to participate in the challenge, but she was able to get into the car. I was like, I'm sorry, guys, because I felt like I tanked all their games. I didn't know what the game state was because I was so far removed from it. Like, Kevin even tried to contact me. I'm like, dude, I legit don't know what's going on. Like, I just felt like
uh,
all the heat is on me, and Amy was kind of letting me know, like, how badly I fucked up. And I admit, yeah, I messed up badly. Um, had I had my composure, maybe I would have been able to talk my way out of it or done something differently because I definitely had time. But at the same time, like I just let my mental health get the best of me.
uh,
And so I went into this thing like I'm not planning on winning. I want to go further and maybe help you guys win. But yeah. So and then Corey was like obviously pissed at me. And then like he and I were like one of the last two on the calls. And I'm like, he was like, he was like, "I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna go with wherever the votes goes." And I'm like, "I know, man. I am genuinely sorry no matter what happens." And then I do.
Yeah. Okay. So here we are. All of that just happens. We're going in now. First challenge, and we get probably the best moment though of your season, uh
Yes.
the planking challenge, um which huge challenge for you. You gotta win. um and what was the exact time again that you went?
Exact time, it was like I know, like, I think I rounded it down to 9 minutes, 30 seconds, but it was in that thing. Thing is, it's like, you gotta understand, when I was in that challenge, I'm like, first off, I have to go up against Anthony and freaking Kevin.
Yeah.
Both of these dudes are shredded. Like, I'm, like, fit-ish,
Yeah.
but I'm not, like, that fit.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I really got screwed over by this wheel and like who I have to compete against. Because I was saying endurance is one of my good strong suits, but I don't know if I was going to beat them.
Hmm.
And so I had to last super long. And I was able to even have some quips in there too, which I'm proud of myself.
Uh-huh.
Some people were like, I don't know, like all I knew was like, if I don't win this, I go home at 11, or I better get the idol because they dropped it in the chat.
Uh-huh.
And so, like, the thing is, it's like I was looking at it beforehand to see if they would do it, and then after I'm finished, I could barely stand up, dude. I couldn't barely sit up.
Yeah.
And so, like, when we were going swinging to tribal, I tried to strategize. I missed the idol because Pirate Sarah got it. I should have paid more attention to my phone because I was like when the game started and whatnot, but I should have when we were off going because not really too many people were gonna strategize with me. JJ, I thought was on my side. Didn't know he was the one that blindsided me, and so I'm like, all right, let's go after Kevin or something. And then when I realized that Sarah got the merge idol because how you did, you had to screenshot it. The only two people that were on the little bubbles in the scat was Pirate Sarah and Jake. So I knew that after I screenshot it and then sent it in my confessional that Sarah had it. So I'm like,
Uh-huh.
she has the second idol. Now she has at least two.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah. So going into this, I'm like, I don't know what to do because I already told JJ to vote Kevin. The thing is, if Kevin plays his idol, if Sarah plays the idol, then he goes home. So I'm like, I need to throw a vote on Anthony. I think that's the only thing I can do because no one, you know, all I could do was pitch names, but no
Uh-huh.
one was really listening to me. And
Yeah.
then there was no separate breakout wounds, so I was kind of hearing from the other thing, and then I was hearing that Amy was the vote on the other side, and that kind of crushed me because I was like, that's when I was like, this is all my fault.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
um,
well, let's go back to the challenge because I feel like we went back to trying to go to to all that stuff. I just want to know, did you have any kind of strategy for planking that long? Was there any? Were you like thinking of things like trying to ease the pain, or did you just go for it?
uh, it was a thing of like I was seeing. This is gonna sound cheesy, and I mentioned this on Jake's, but I did a Kung Fu Panda Starman short where the like line was "Let their doubt be feel on your journey to rule," and so I was saying that in my head. I was like being like Ryan Luck is a good thing, and then I was like, I just have to survive. I just have to give it my all because if I drop without collapsing and if I don't do that, then I can't say I gave it my all. I
Hmm.
would rather collapse and not be able to move the rest of the game than, saying I didn't give my all because I was going to go home no matter what.
Uh-huh.
So, like, I was like, no, I have to keep going. And also, it was a thing of like, no, I can't give up on myself. Also, no one wanted me to win that fucking challenge, which
Yeah.
is kind of shitty because, like, it's sad when, I'm going to a challenge and my proudest moment on there, it's like, no one wants me to win this thing. people discredit mostly Kevin because like the cat distracted him. There could be validity to that, but at the same time, it's like, dude, if you can do this for an hour, then a cat's not going to phase you too much.
Mhm.
So like, um, I was like, no one's wanted me to win this, but I want to win this for me, so I can have an immunity win because this is my only way of making it to the end is to win out and play idols and all that stuff. And then also, I wanted to be proud of something at the end of this.
Mhm.
So, like, all that was going through my head. And also, like, "Please, for the love of God, Anthony, drop!"
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like, that was also going through my head. I was like, "I just have to outlast him. He's wobbling. He's wobbling. I just have to stay. I just have to stay." And, yeah, I'm like, I was starting to lower a little bit, but I'm like, "I just have to beat him out. He's
Yeah.
gonna break any second." And I just had to, like, endure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, congrats. I could not have done it as gone as long as you. So that was definitely an impressive feat, regardless of how the rest of the day was, going and where it will go.
I mentioned it on my Hinge profile
Yeah.
that I played for 9.5 minutes for a Survivor thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Round up to 10 if you want it.
No, I'm not gonna start a relationship based off of lies.
Well, maybe you should because that could get you further in these games.
Ouch. Anyway,
Okay. So yeah, you managed to be safe. So now knowing, I guess, that JJ was the one to say your name, it was probably good that, he ends up being the one to suffer a bit from Chattergate here.
in hindsight, yeah, it made me a little happy. But
Uh,
like when it happened, here was my emotional state. I started seeing my alliance go one by one, and it's all my fault. It's
uh,
like because I didn't really like Johnny, he and I were tight, but we didn't know each other that well. We were just like, okay, you did me a favor. I'm super loyal to you right now. And then Johnny went. I was like, oh man. But like watching two allies of mine just go back to back because JJ was still kind of like talking to me at least after the Summit crew kind of burst. And, I was like, I felt bad that he went because of me. Well, I mean, honestly, because of himself. Um, and then when Amy went, and so like I'm like, oh no, it's happening. Two of my allies went, and it's all my fault. And so in hindsight, I I look back, I'm like, you deserve that, JJ. Yeah. But during the moment, it hurt me inside because I was like, it's all my fault.
mhm. Yeah. We'll have heard it from my big brother Vanquish, but I feel the same way. It's never fun when other people lose the game, kind of, it seems, by what's, how you were playing or perceived. So
Yeah.
definitely feel for you on that one. Um, do you think that there was any chance that you could have been able to talk your way out of surviving this 9-8? Which, by the way, I think you kind of got screwed. The fact that the two highest vote getters go home here, because even if you could get votes, I mean, like, you knew you were getting votes, so you
Well, I
would have
mean,
to.
I kind of knew the parallels between your and I's thing is kind of weird
uh,
because at that challenge, the planking took literally everything I had. Like
uh,
I may have been able to go a full 10 minutes, maybe further. I don't know. We can only go off of the what we got, but my arms were jelly.
mhm,
I wasn't able to the table I had wasn't long enough, so I had to do it on the floor. My floor, there the boards and whatnot, so there was gonna be bumps and whatnot. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna win this challenge. And at this point, I kind of knew that I was done. And this is gonna sound stupid, but when it came to the double, all I was really concerned about was like I knew I had to go. but all I was really concerned about was making sure that Rachel didn't go with me.
Mhm.
Because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, all the chatterboxes are being targeted. I don't want Rachel to go. And so going to that, I was like trying to get votes on Kevin. I didn't know if I could get votes on Sarah because I didn't want to say both to do that because I'm like,
Mhm.
I know I'm going out, but I'm at least going to take out Kevin with me. And so I told Rachel that. Rachel did vote for me. Oh no, vote with me. Um, and so, you know, I tried pitching Kevin to the heroes mostly because it wasn't because I was like trying to think that I could get them to vote out Kevin. I was like, Kevin's a big threat. Get rid of him when you can. That was like one thing. But also it's like I want to make sure that I wasn't throwing too many names out. In theory, I could have told the heroes Sarah's name and then Kevin the other, or been like, I had all the situations where I'm like, neither of them are going to play their idols because they don't think I can get the numbers, and then they go out that way or something, because they don't play their idols because they don't believe that I could have done that, or I could have. Essentially, I knew I was going out at ninth or eighth. I was just trying to make sure that Rachel wasn't one of those spots,
Mhm.
um, because I wanted, the best for my friends, and so like I just kind of accepted my fate and was just trying to help out a friend at least get one stage further.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
That's why you
well,
didn't see me fight too much.
uh-huh. Yeah, well, unfortunately that ends up not happening as, you know, the duo here kind of goes out together. Poetic at the end. As a writer, I know as like you like in that moment wanted different outcomes, but as a writer, definitely the narratively best option is for duos to go out like that.
Honestly, I just still don't think we were fully a duo.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I
I mean,
mean,
like,
yeah,
I couldn't save her twice. That was
yeah,
my thing.
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think it was definitely seen that way by a lot of people. Maybe I think even maybe in game, it probably seemed like you guys were working pretty close together.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, part of that was also like Rachel and I are we still talk and
mhm,
whatnot, but Amy was someone that I trust completely. And so, like, people knew that Amy and I were tight because of like how we were messaging or whatnot,
mhm,
or at least that's what Corey says. And I think Pirate Sarah, or at least that's what Corey, Pirate Sarah, and then Rachel, if she was really on that fiendish for, could have said that too. But like, if you just straight up just watch the lives and whatnot, or if you just straight up watch those two things, you wouldn't have guessed. And I think that's what I was kind of alluding to when I did my thing with Jake. If you were watching that, you would have thought that Rachel and I were like this.
mhm.
And I mean, we are like this, but in the game
Yeah,
varies. I did ask her after, I was like, just so I have closure on it, what were your thoughts? And she was like, she did really want to go with the wolves and whatnot, the wolf pack. And she thought it was funny and like thought it was really cool. I knew like she probably wouldn't have taken me to the end, but at the same time, I'm like, it's all right.
yeah,
I was just glad I was able to play with her and Amy.
yeah, yeah. It's tough to read Rachel. I'll be honest. It really can be tough. After my season, she told me that before the final eight stuff that happens, she would have gone final three with me. And I honestly don't know how true that is still because I'm like, I think she wanted me and Jackson at final three, thinking that she would be guaranteed to get to the end with whoever. So
I think she definitely had to win that three in order to get that one.
yeah, I mean, I would have taken Jackson even if I didn't like him. I would have known that that would have won, and I think Jackson. No, to be honest though, Jackson 100% takes Rachel. He believes taking the best player at the end. He thought my game sucked, so um
Yeah.
but
But
yeah, no, it can definitely like Rachel's a great player. Like she's but it is definitely can be tough to fully know if you trust her, because she seems like she tells so many people, like how close she is with you, and the fact that she tells so many people that it's always hard to tell, like, is she just like not really wanting to make a decision here, or is she just kind of like waiting to see where everything falls?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so you're out of the game now. My question here is just so the viewers know, because you don't always get to see it on the lives, but who did you end up vote for in the end, and why?
All right. So for those of you that, so it was a 4 to 5 vote in favor of Pirate Sarah. I went into that. I'm like, I'm gonna vote for Kevin. And I even mentioned this on Jake's podcast. Kevin should have fought harder because I was definitely the swing vote there.
Uh,
Because, I was like, all right, I'm gonna hear Sarah out and whatnot. But I'm like, I'm not gonna be a bitter juror. So Kevin, fight for this. And then Kevin wasn't fighting for it. And then I couldn't deny how great of a game Sarah was playing. But at the same time, one, and I did mention this in the last one, and Sarah even called me out on it. I didn't want to upset Amy or a friend by voting for her because I knew that whole beef was. I also was someone where I'm like, back to the whole heroes versus playing like a hero. Do I reward the villain for, it's like one of those things that was going through my head. It's also like she didn't want to work with me, and it's one of the things where it was like she was one of my it was cool seeing two of my favorite Vanquish contestants at the end,
mhm,
but she was kind of my favorite, and the fact that we didn't get to work together, I was a little bitter, or like I was a little like upset with that.
uh,
Um, And so I was, like, balancing that in my head, but at the end of the day, I was like, I don't wanna deprive a woman who played such a phenomenal game, who was a target, who got far because of implicit immunity, went from a total decimation of the villains, and then 1 out in 2 challenges, and then also received 0 votes throughout the entire game, albeit, only going to 1 tribal council pre-merge, and then also her being one of my favorite contestants of Vanquish. It's like I couldn't pass up the opportunity to award her for all of that.
yeah.
And it's like Kevin wasn't fighting for it, so I voted for Pirate Sarah.
Mhm.
And 4 or 5 moments. That's all it takes. Some people say you brush your teeth a hero and stuff like that. But there's really 4 or 5 moments that define you as a hero. And yes, I am quoting Deadpool. But to not be petty and to do the right thing. Now that doesn't redeem me as a hero, but it's a step in the right direction for when one of those 4 or 5 moments come up.
Yeah, yeah. I will
So
say,
yes, I voted for Pirate Sarah.
yeah, yeah. Viewer perspective was very much heavy on Sarah should win. It was actually kind of shocking for a lot of us that it was as close as it was. Now obviously we didn't know all the dynamics of who liked who and all that stuff, but like
Yeah.
from a gameplay, from the viewers, everyone was like, it's got to be Sarah because she did a lot of stuff. Kevin didn't really do too much. It did feel a little bit like he got dragged to the end. Like he got lucky that he didn't go home pre-merge, and then managed to just see the villains implode.
I will say Michael did say part of the reason was he was tight with Kevin. Also, he was a good meat shield.
Mhm.
Also, they were losing challenges, so why would they get rid of their challenge beast
Yeah.
during all of that? Now, argument could have been made at, that 5 or whatever, when, it was their final tribal council, when it was at 12, the last one before the merge. But at the same time, they knew he had the idol. So it was like, are we really going to? Implicit immunity played so much into it. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Nice, nice, nice. Okay. Well, I have just a couple more questions here. Uh, first off, you'll always ask this question, but if there was a Survivor player who you feel like you played like in this season, who would it be and why?
So it's funny. We actually did a fan casting in the Heroes versus Villains chat of like people from the actual Heroes versus Villains and who I got.
Uh,
I got Coach Benjamin Wade,
yeah.
which makes total sense apart from the Christianity stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, a little self-righteous, got emotional, got
Yeah.
um
Try to
you
follow
know,
his
like
sword for his allies, but
yeah, um won a challenge, a bit dramatic. Yeah, which is nicer than what I originally thought because I was gonna say Bruce because it was like totally like I'm very hard on myself.
Mhm,
I like Coach Wade, so I'm gonna take that.
mhm,
Like watching Q play, I'm like, I see the parallels of mine, and I'm like, no, I wouldn't say fully I'm Q. It's like I'm also a thing of like I talk down on myself a lot,
mhm,
but like and I've been focusing a lot of the positives of that, which is why I haven't it's not that I'm part-time in orgs. It's like I'm on one org where I don't have to vote anyone off or anything. So I'm like, I'm more okay with doing this than being part of a social org right now.
uh-huh,
But to answer your question, to circle back from where we started, Coach Benjamin Wade.
yeah.
Do you agree with that? Do you concur?
Yeah, I would say that that's pretty accurate. I can definitely see that. I mean, big character. I feel like he was a big character of the season. But yeah, definitely. I can definitely see some of the like social like inaptitude, I guess is what you would say between the two, where like he can get in with like a group and like be pretty good there, but he can also be very oblivious when people are lying around him. Like he can definitely, not see when Russell Hance is telling him the wrong things.
Yeah, I mean, and I know like not everyone likes Coach, but I like Coach.
Yeah, I
Maybe
like
because I
Coach.
like him.
He's
So yeah.
good. He's good. Um, okay, and then final question I have here is I want to see how would you compare this season with your Vanquish season?
There are pros and cons to both, to be honest.
Mhm.
I like this one. I do feel like overall I played better, but then again, the first time I played, did I really play?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean,
I feel like the
I
bonds I go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say I would say I think I liked your first game better. Um, I know that you say like you didn't get to play the game, um, but like the fact that you were always a target and you had to go so far of going to so many tribal councils while being a target and a potential person to go home, uh, showed to me more like skill and like ability to play. Whereas in this one, you only really had like 2 times where you were actually, vulnerable, and the second time was the one that you ended up going home.
Well, there's that aspect of it,
Yeah,
but at the same time, you know me, I'm a sentimental person.
yeah,
One, the friends I made here, I hate saying it, but like it's partially because I bonded with them more and played the social game more.
mhm,
I'm tighter with this than I was with the previous one. Now, granted, that's also because half of them are, celebrities that are doing their own little thing,
yeah,
um, that were doing it for charity. And then also, I'm this time around, I got to be in alliance. I got to make a
mhm,
move and help out an ally because maybe Rachel went out there. I know like my vote would have went to Jen. Maybe Rachel does go out because I wasn't in there. And if we buddy system, that could have been it.
uh-huh,
Um, I got to win a challenge and I got to do something that's incredible. And then, I got to also live out a childhood dream and be on Heroes versus Villains.
uh
Now, granted, there was a lot of psychological stuff I went through. Like I legit was emotional the next day. Like I was on set for Darman and like I was still like going through shit from that one thing and
Uh,
like I was even like crying. I was like about betraying my friends and stuff like that and losing sight and like it was really affecting me afterwards.
mhm.
But I feel like the friends I made here still had some fun storylines and I feel like the growth that I did in this one is better. So I will say that this is my better game.
Uh,
Even though like you from your strategical mindset, and I think a lot of people would agree with you. Yeah, the first one was probably the better gameplay and whatnot. But at the same time, I really like heroes versus villains.
uh, okay. Well, there you have it. Do you have any more things that you want to talk about? Or I don't know if we beat Corey's time here.
I
Uh,
think we start at what 9:30. I don't know. Um, but I don't need to be Corey at this. But
yeah,
I guess a few things where we didn't touch on this too much during Jake's, but about the retirement stuff because like I was pretty quick to be like, I'm done. Like I'll host and whatnot. I'll be a mod, but done playing these games.
uh,
Um, I'll go into that a little bit. It's like because of what I feel like I'm not good at them. Like, and then also like with just how badly things went, people talk about it. I feel like I just go home early no matter what, where it's like, why would anyone want to work with me?
I mean,
The
you haven't
best I
gone
can.
home early. I mean, there's a lot of people who play these games and they're always pre-merge.
Hey, it's not about Cameron. Like, he's also an amazing guy. He actually talked to me about on retiring a little bit
Uh,
anyway. But the thing is, it's also like, I feel like if I played again, I'd have to just straight up not make any strategies, just be a goat to get to the end. And that's not the way I want to play. I think another reason why
yeah.
I loved Heroes versus Villains more than I loved Fans versus Favorites is Heroes versus Villains, even though it was messy and led to an emotional breakdown and whatnot, I got to play it as me.
Yeah.
Whereas the first time around, I wasn't genuine. I didn't get to be myself as much.
Mhm.
So, like, the fact that I got to do it this time around was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll
Um,
I'd be so
yeah,
interested to see you do a long org. I don't think you should, and I think it's a lot of commitment and time and stuff.
it's tough because of
Yeah,
my like career,
yeah,
but
exactly. But I feel like you might do better just because the fact that you see the mini as such a condensed and things are going so quick. I think that puts you in that mindset of gotta go, 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 which makes sense. I get why you're doing it, but I also can see why some people are like, well, let's chill for a bit, and later we
yeah,
can be doing that stuff. Um but when you do a long org, you don't really do that too much until
yeah,
like tribal council is happening. Like you have a lot of time to talk to people, have good moments, and then suddenly it's like a little bit later. It's like okay, now we can be doing that stuff. But um,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I will say this. One, I did have conditions of unretirement. One definitely wasn't met. The other
yeah,
is impossible. And I don't think at this point I want it to happen for the other condition. But I will say that watching you and Rachel play was inspiring.
mhm,
Uh, and then I also know in my head that I'm very hard on myself. But at the same time, I'm also very self-destructive. So me signing up for another one might be just me trying to just hurt myself. And like,
yeah,
be careful what I say there. Hurt myself as in like set myself up for failure of like just like yeah.
mhm,
And like I said, I still don't think and I know I've talked about this with Cameron and Jake and like other people as well, but like talk with like Cameron really, he could have swayed me. We'll see what opportunities come my way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm just gonna settle for being on World Vision, where I'm gonna be a celebrity, not me celebrity, but like an actual celebrity, where I'm just submit a song every 24 hours. That's what my next thing is gonna be, and it is a long form one, but it's not a social one. So for me, it's like it falls in that area where I'm like, okay, this is a safe one to do because it's not Survivor really. I'm not voting for anyone. This is just a fun little game to do.
Uh-huh.
I'm still gonna try my best. I'll listen to so many songs to find the just the right one. I'm gonna give it my all, but at the same time, I know like I don't have to worry about getting hurt.
Mhm. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it to see. I no one's going to know who you are because of the whole celebrity gimmick. So
Yeah,
uh,
and it's not gonna be an obvious choice. So like if you see Catherine Newton on there, that's clearly not gonna be
yeah,
I'm not gonna be that obvious so you guys know.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's definitely something to look forward to. But I'm still holding out hope for us to be on a mini together.
I know we're at least hosting one together.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna host one. But I want to play with you, man. I want us to get to the end.
I know you're full of shit because you said if you got on Heroes vs. Villains, you were gonna backstab my ass.
That was purely from the heroes versus villains storyline. If I was on as a villain, I was going full villain.
I just love how we're like two sides of the same coin. You're like, I'm on a villain side. I want to be a hero because redemption and stuff. You're like, nah, fuck it, I'm gonna go full villain.
Yeah, if I was on a villain tribe, I get the green lights to be a villain.
I
um,
don't know. If
but
at the end of the day, it's just another way to categorize us.
yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, that's gonna do it here for the heroes versus villains tell all. Yeah, I guess we will see you all in the next one.
All right. Peace.